All right, happy Friday, everyone. Here with Josh. I'm Chris. Here for the Friday, August 31st. Can't believe it's already the end of August here. We're going to be looking at the 15-game main slate on DFS MLB tonight. Josh, how's it going?
Going well. A little tired, but powering through twice in one day is nice, huh?
Yeah, you've just been going hard on these videos here. I was watching some of the EPL show earlier, and you two are just full of so much knowledge. I've learned so much just in the last 2 weeks watching you guys' videos. So great stuff there.
Trying to help. See my dogs in the background.
I see them. That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So let's dig in. What pitchers
on
today?
Yeah, we got some nice pitching today, actually. And right at the top, I'm looking at Luis Severino. He's probably, for cash games, I'm probably going to go down to Zach Wheeler at a bit of a discount. He's been a little bit more stable recently, like over his last 5 games, just looking at FanDuel numbers. And DK is going to be a little similar. But Wheeler has averaged 45.8 FanDuel points per game, while Severino has averaged 31. So that's quite a bit of difference over their last 5 starts, recent form. But overall, Severino's got more upside, so I'm probably going to be going Wheeler in cash and Severino when it comes to GPPs, and then probably sprinkle in, just looking at the top pitchers anyway, sprinkle in some Corey Kluber against Tampa Bay. For some reason, he's the most expensive pitcher on FanDuel tonight, and he's 4th on DraftKings, so don't quite get that. I guess Wheeler and Greinke are slight underdogs. I'll have to update those odds, I think, because I believe Wheeler is now the favorite for that late game. No, he's still 110 dog. So that's maybe why they have Kluber ahead on FanDuel, but definitely looking at him for GPP. That's a lot of money to spend on Kluber, who's kind of seen as he's seen his, I guess you could say, his upside, strikeout upside go down. Last year was a bit of an outlier. So how about you?
Yeah, he's declining a bit. Severino's, I've been nervous about him in the second half. He hasn't really been the same pitcher. Let me see Greinke's price. Yeah, Wheeler's pretty safe. He just pitched well against San Francisco a few weeks ago. He's pretty expensive right now on the road, so he's not my favorite option. Severino's probably the best at home. Yankees, had a tough loss last night. They, can't keep dropping games. So Severino's definitely the safest. A little below that, Kluber is actually really not a bad call. I'd probably give a little bit of a bump to Kluber tonight, like you said, because of the price. I expect about the same production from them, just $1,000 cheaper for Kluber. There's no real cheap guys that I like. I'll have some Senzatella and GPP just because it's at San Diego and he's so cheap. It's good pitchers. Yeah, good pitchers part. I could see him going for potentially 2.5x if they get the win. Brett Kennedy, potentially, I may have a little of him. Same deal. Colorado, they struggle against righties a little bit. No interest in Homer Bailey. So usually I take a look at the cheapos like that if I think they can pitch a decent game, but I don't really feel that way tonight. So I'll mostly be chilling at the top with those guys that we mentioned earlier. Maybe some – the over-under in the Mets game is interesting. I'll consider Suarez, but he hasn't been very good recently, so I'm not a big fan of his. He's not very –
hit that rookie wall.
Yeah, he doesn't strike out many people either. So Tanner Roark is someone I would consider in GPP because Milwaukee strikes out so much.
Cool. The one I wanted to ask you about, I wrote him up in my article. I wrote up Severino and Wheeler, and then as my cheap kind of SP2 option on DraftKings, I wrote up that Framber Valdez for Houston.
Oh, I like it. Yeah.
He's got a crazy curveball. I watched a bit of his last start, and that curveball just kind of drops off the table. And he came in and pitched 4 1/3 in his first outing after who came in there? Brad Peacock started the game, pitched like an inning and 2/3 or something like that. And Valdez has looked pretty good. I mean, it's a really good park. They're big favorites tonight. He's got some K upside. Just the innings pitch thing is a little bit of a concern for me when looking at FanDuel because you want that quality start. But on DraftKings at 6,900, I think it makes sense. And 2x for him, I mean, you're looking at 14 points. I think he can definitely do that. So I'm definitely looking at him to pair with Severino, Wheeler, or Kluber on DraftKings.
What's your ranking for Severino, Wheeler, Kluber? Is it that order?
For cash, I'd go Wheeler, Severino, and then GPP, I'm looking at Severino, Wheeler. It's really funny that the Mets, I mean, I know their offense isn't great and they haven't been great in the second half, but I mean, you got Wheeler versus Suarez. Wheeler's the much more established pitcher. You're in a pitcher's park, and somehow the Mets are underdogs here. So that kind of concerns me a little bit, being that Severino's like a minus 350 favorite right now. I mean, the park, and obviously Yankee Stadium's a hitter's park, so that concerns me a little bit. But I still lean in Wheeler for cash and Severino for GPP.
Yeah, Scooby agrees.
Right on, Scoobs.
Yeah, no, I would say that's true. Framber Valdez is probably the only cheap guy that I really like. Pairing him with any one of the top three is good for cash in my eyes as well. Is that it for pitching? You want to move on to hitters?
One other guy I wanted to ask you about was Austin Gomber, St. Louis there faces Cincinnati. He's pretty cheap. He's in that mid-range. He's a big favorite as well. Good pitcher's park. The only thing that concerns me with him is that his xFIP is about 2 higher than his ERA, so there's probably some regression coming for him. And a lot of it has to do with he's walking like 4.5 per 9, and he doesn't really have that. He's like a league average swing and strike rate and K percentage, so nothing big there. But Cincinnati, I believe, has been a little bit worse against left-handed pitching. Yeah, they have quite a bit. Actually, they've been a bit better against left-handed pitching. So GPP, I think I would use him as a GPP SP2 on DraftKings. But what's your thoughts on him?
I don't mind it. To be honest, if I was looking for a GPP play, I would go down a little farther and either go to Brad Keller or Senzatella.
Yeah.
But I think Gomber is pretty like off the radar. I don't think he'll be under 5% owned. So definitely fits the bill for GPP. St. Louis has been hot. They're at home. Like you just, I guess Cincinnati's been a little bit better in the end, so that stat wasn't quite referenceable. But I don't mind it. Yeah, just 7,700 is a little too much for me.
Yeah, so there's like a big gap between like your top pitchers that we kind of discussed there, and then kind of our lower end ones. We're kind of skipping over that middle range. Just the matchups aren't very good tonight in that mid range. When you're looking at I like Tyler Glasnow, but he's going up against Cleveland as a 195 dog, so not really liking that. Nathan Eovaldi's got a good matchup against the White Sox, even though they've been hot, but he hasn't been great lately either.
A little revenge game. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's true. And then, I mean, you got Michael Kopech on the other side of that with the White Sox. Exciting fireballer, throwing 100 mile an hour, but he's going up against the best offense in baseball, especially against right-handed pitching. So that mid-range is just very tough tonight.
I agree. I'll be living with Framber and one of the studs.
Yeah, I like that.
Cool. Let's move over to offense. I'm assuming we don't have any questions. So you want to start with value or your favorite stacks?
Well, just looking at the top, we got right now we've got 5 teams that have more than 5 implied runs. You got Texas, New York, Minnesota, St. Louis, and Houston. Now, the thing that I really noticed tonight when breaking down the top offenses is I started looking at park factors a little bit, and believe it or not, Texas Globe Life Park there is rated higher when it comes to runs per game as well as home runs per game. So there's been more power, and I'm talking about Coors. I'm comparing them to Coors. So the thing with that,
second half of the year, it's been an offensive explosion in Arlington, it seems like.
Yeah. And I mean, Colorado's not in Colorado tonight, but their prices are still way up there when in comparison to Texas. And Texas has actually been the better offense as well. So with that said, I think you can really roll with the value in Texas, and they're going to be like, from a points per dollar perspective, they're definitely my number one offense tonight. There's an 11.5 over under in that game, and they're projected just under 6. So
how do they do against lefties versus righties? They're
lefties versus righties for them. Just going to kind of look at that here.
Saying, how do the Texas bats do against left-handed pitching?
Their splits are almost dead even when looking at like your WOBA, WRC plus, and ISO. Now, a lot of people I think there might even though they are the highest projected team, they might even come a little bit lower owned with looking at a few of their bats tonight, like Joey Gallo. He hits down the lineup. So for GPP, that's always good. He's going to be a little bit lower owned there. We all know his power. And although he strikes out 41% versus left-handed pitching, he leads the team in WOBA, WRC plus, and ISO against left-handed pitching. So keep that in mind when you're building your GPP lineups.
I agree with that. Yeah, a lot of times, I don't want to call it a mistake, but sometimes I do this myself. it's easy to when you're stacking an offense. If there's a lefty pitching, to only take their righties, and you know what I mean. But you got to remember these starters aren't going to stay in the whole game, so it may not necessarily be a lefty the whole day. And lefties can hit lefties, so and righties can hit righties. So careful. Sometimes it's nice to take advantage of knowing that a guy like Gallo is going to be a little less owned in a good spot. So we talked about Texas. Who are they playing? Minnesota. Do you have any interest in Minnesota's offense?
Yeah, I think just a game stack there. I think it makes a lot of sense. High over under. They're both projected for over 5.5 runs. I like Texas a little more, but on the if you're looking for a little bit of ownership discount there, I think you can go with Minnesota versus Drew Hutchison and get in like their lineup tonight. It's a little bit different. They got Maurer, Polanco, Grossman moved him up to the 3 spot, and then Miguel Sano. I don't mind Kepler in the 5 spot either, but you're looking at the offenses, you would think, wow, that who are these guys? To most, your casual players. But Maurer doesn't have a lot of power. He's over 4,000. Polanco's up there. He's over 4,000. So I lean Texas, but I think you can go with Minnesota. You're probably going to get them on average about 10% per player lower owned. So are they someone you're going to be targeting?
I'm taking a look right now. Most of value I see is Texas and Minnesota, so I think you're right on that. Yeah. I'll probably have some Cam Gallagher. I like when guys are 2,100 or something like that and they're starting. I like to throw them in lineups. They make stuff work. They make cool lineups work that aren't possible otherwise.
Yeah, and you don't really need much from those low-owned guys either.
Exactly. I'll have some St. Louis. Homer Bailey's obviously Homer Bailey is horrible.
Yes.
Very hot the second half of the year. They're fighting for a playoff spot. Their manager just got a full-time offer. Baltimore, Kansas City.
Yeah, that coach for St. Louis.
What do you think about the Royals?
Oh, they're a tough one. I like them in good matchups like this because they're always cheap. Merrifield's the only one over 4K on FanDuel. In the top 5 of the lineup, Brian Goodwin down there is a little bit more expensive, but Merrifield definitely makes sense. Alex Gordon's been hot. They're more of a team. I'm probably going to pick those 2 guys out and use them in my lineups as one-offs rather than stacking the whole Royals team.
Gotcha. Yankees. Who are the Yankees? What about the Yankees against Zimmerman?
Yeah, I listed them. If you're going cheap pitching, going with more of a value route on pitching tonight because they're very expensive. Besides Luke Voigt, he's 2,800 still on FanDuel. He's kind of up and down, but he's got power. He had a home run last night, and again, he's a cheap enough guy where you can fit him in and still build nice lineups with. Stanton finally broke out last night with the home run there. That was pretty big.
Matches lefties, man.
Yeah, and he does for sure. So he's against a righty tonight, but Jordan Zimmerman hasn't been great since the All-Star break. He's allowed 4+ earned runs in 4 of his 6 starts. And like I said, if you're going to use the Yankees, you really have to go down with your pitching. So I guess it all depends how comfortable you are with your value pitchers tonight.
No, I want Minnesota and Texas. That's who I want.
Yeah, and then I agree with you on St. Louis. Yeah, they've been red hot since that coach took over. I think he's their manager, I guess. I believe they have the best record in baseball since he's became the interim manager and now the full-time manager of the team. So Matt Carpenter is the one I'm really looking at there. Even in lineups where I'm using Texas or Minnesota, I'm going to try and fit Matt Carpenter in tonight. And then the other value one I'm looking at tonight is Toronto versus Dan Straley. Straley can be up and down. He can be very good at times, but he is prone to blow up games. He's given up 19 home runs in 21 starts. It's like a 15% home run to fly ball rate this season. A lot of hard contact. So when he's off, he's off. When he's on, he's on. So that kind of spells GPP for me, and I think a lot of people will, maybe use him against the Jays, who do tend to strike out at times. So I think he makes sense, or Toronto makes sense for GPP. They got McKinney back at the top. I like them more on FanDuel. Everyone's under $4,000 in that top 4. You got Lourdes Gurriel Jr. is hitting second, then Morales and Grichuk, who's been red hot. So there's a lot of power there, and they're cheap. So if you're going with top pitching, even on on DraftKings where you're pairing 2 top pitchers, I think they make sense as a value stack as well, like a Minnesota.
Yeah, I like Polanco and Sano tonight a lot.
Yep. Sano's got a ton of power. He's definitely a GPP play for sure. Love it.
I think who else? Is there anyone else you're targeting offensively that we didn't mention?
I'll always look at the Oakland guys. Mike Leake doesn't really give up a lot of fly balls. I believe he's in that 30% range of fly balls. But Oakland's been red hot. We all know about them. I think they're like a top 3, top 4 team in offense since the All-Star break. A lot of power. They're actually one of only 3 teams in the last 14 days that has an over 200 ISO, joining Toronto, who leads the way, and then the Dodgers are in second. They got Oakland in third. So I always like to look at that ISO, that isolated power number, overall for a team, and then especially on the player level, just to kind of pick out. And actually, the team that's in third in that category over the last 14 days is Kansas City, which you just mentioned. So definitely something to think about there as well. And all that information, if you're looking at those advanced stats, you can definitely check out my sheet. I've got team by team overall, last 14, last 7 days, home road splits, right lefty splits, and then same thing on the pitcher side of things to help you pick out if you want to break down matchups even more than what we've discussed here. So,
all right, yeah. On that note, the internet's getting pretty choppy, so I think we should cut it off, cut our losses. But we got through everything, so it was a good show.
And don't forget to get over, if you haven't tried it out yet, get over to RotoPros.com and get your 2-week free trial. We got NFL coming up in a week. Heck yeah, go Vikings! And had to plug that. But definitely head over to RotoPros and sign up for your 2-week free trial. We've got Slack chat. We're in there pretty much almost 24/7. Breaking down the slates coming, all sports pretty much, almost every single sport I think we cover. So head over there, check that out, and join us in the Slack chat. And we've got tons of articles coming out on the site, rotopros.com as well. So be sure to check that out. On that note, let's go make some lineups and get some green.
2-week free trial, guys. Thanks, Chris. Great job.
Cheers.
Yeah.